The sun was just beginning to rise over the wide-open plains, casting a warm golden light over the small town at the edge of the cattle country. The cowboy woke early as he always did, the air crisp with the smell of grass and dust. He moved quietly around the small cabin he had built with his own hands, the wooden boards worn smooth from years of use. He made his way to the barn where the sound of lowing cattle greeted him. The animals were restless in the morning light, and he took a moment to pat their heads and whisper to them as if they could understand every word. He had lived in this town for most of his life, a place where everyone knew each other, and the rhythm of life was dictated by the rising and setting sun. The cowboy was known for his honesty and quiet strength. He did not seek attention and preferred to work with his hands rather than words. Most mornings he rode out with his horse, checking fences and making sure the herd was safe. The life was simple, but it gave him a sense of purpose and peace. One morning, as he was mending a fence, he noticed a woman walking along the dirt road coming from the main part of town. She was visiting relatives in the area, and her presence immediately caught the eyes of the townspeople. They were curious, but the cowboy did not notice the whispers around him. He only saw the woman as she approached the fence. Her eyes meeting his for a brief moment that seemed to stretch longer than it should, there was a spark of connection that neither of them could explain. Over the next few days, she lingered in town helping her relatives, and every time their paths crossed, they shared short conversations about the weather, the animals, and the land. She laughed easily and spoke with warmth and sincerity. The cowboy found himself thinking about her even when he was far away tending to the cattle. Her presence became a light in the otherwise routine days. Town soon caught wind of their growing friendship, and speculation spread. Quickly, people began to talk about the possibility of a deeper connection between them. The cowboy felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as he tried to understand his own feelings. He was not used to being the center of attention in matters of the heart. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the cowboy found himself walking toward the woman. He carried a small bouquet of wildflowers picked from the edge of the prairie. They walked together in silence for a while until the cowboy finally spoke, telling her that he felt a strong connection with her, unlike anything he had felt before. She smiled softly and admitted that she felt the same way. The honesty between them was clear, and it filled the air with a quiet promise of something new. A few weeks later, he asked her to be his partner in life. She accepted, and the town erupted with excitement. The cowboy was to be engaged, and everyone had an opinion about the upcoming wedding. The town was small, and word traveled fast, and yet amidst all the noise he felt only happiness for the first time in a long while. But life has a way of complicating even the simplest joys. One afternoon, as he was repairing a section of the corral, a second woman approached quietly. She had known the cowboy for years, always admired him from a distance, and quietly hoped for a chance that would never come. She confessed her feelings in a voice trembling with emotion, explaining that she had loved him silently for a long time. The cowboy was stunned. He had never imagined this possibility. He had always thought of her as a friend, someone who shared his quiet moments and understood the rhythm of his life. She had been a steady presence in his world, and suddenly his heart felt torn. He spent long hours thinking about what to do, pacing the barn and riding out into the open plains. His mind was filled with questions about love, loyalty, and honesty. He did not want to hurt either woman, but he could not deny the feelings he had for both of them. He was caught between the life he had planned and the emotions that had quietly taken root in his heart. The town continued its rhythm, unaware of the storm brewing quietly in the cowboy's life. The cattle moved lazily under the bright sun, and the wind carried the smell of earth and grass. But for the cowboy, every moment felt heavy with the weight of a choice he had never anticipated. He began to speak with each woman separately, trying to understand his feelings and theirs. They spent long evenings walking the open fields, talking about life, dreams, and the future. He realized that both women brought something unique to his life, something that fulfilled a part of him he had never noticed was missing. His days turned into weeks. The reality of his situation settled in. He could not hide from the feelings that had grown in his heart, nor could he ignore the potential for heartbreak that loomed over all three of them. He understood that the choice he would make could change the course of their lives forever one quiet night as the stars emerged across the vast sky. The cowboy sat by the fire, thinking about the future. He knew the days ahead would test his character and courage. The simple life he had known was about to change in ways he could not yet comprehend. But in his heart, he felt a quiet determination to handle the situation with honesty and care even. If the path forward was unclear, he realized that love was never simple and life did not always follow the plans we make for ourselves. The cowboy understood that he would need to be brave not just in the face of danger or hardship, but in matters of the heart that could leave deep marks on those he cared for. Morning sun rose again, casting its light across the plains. The cowboy mounted his horse and rode through the fields, his mind still heavy with thoughts, but his heart quietly resolute. He knew that the days ahead would be filled with challenges, decisions and moments that could either heal or hurt. He also knew that he could not turn away from the honesty he felt for both women. The story of the cowboy and the two women was only beginning. There would be whispers, judgments, and tests of character in the days to come, but in that moment, as he rode across the open land, the cowboy felt a small sense of peace. He was facing a future unknown, but he was determined to meet it with an open heart and steady hands, knowing that love could take many forms and courage sometimes meant facing the impossible with honesty and care. The cowboy felt torn in a way he had never experienced before. He cared deeply for both women and could not imagine a life without either of them. He spent long hours in the fields thinking about the feelings he had for each of them and the choices that lay ahead. He knew that the heart was not something that could be divided easily, and he feared the pain that might come from trying to make sense of it all. He decided to speak openly with both women, explaining that his feelings were strong for each of them. He did not want to hide the truth or deceive them. He asked them to walk with him across the wide-open plains as he tried to explain what was in his heart. They listened quietly, their eyes searching his face for answers that he himself did not fully have. He spoke of the times they had shared, the laughter, the quiet moments, and the support that had carried him through difficult days. He told them that he had always believed in living honestly, and that hiding the truth from either of them would only lead to sorrow. He wanted them to understand that his heart did not follow the rules that others might expect. The women were surprised and confused, but they could see the sincerity in his eyes. They realized that the cowboy was not trying to hurt them, but was instead struggling to navigate a situation that had grown beyond what he had imagined. They spent long evenings talking under the stars, sharing their thoughts, fears, and hopes for the future. Towns soon began to notice changes in the cowboy's routine. He was no longer just the quiet man tending to his cattle. He was often seen walking with one woman or the other, and occasionally with both of them together. Their presence at his side sparked whispers and gossip that traveled faster than the wind. Across the plains, some townspeople were curious, others disapproving, and a few even offered advice that was more judgmental than helpful. Despite the talk, the cowboy remained committed to honesty. He believed that living a life of truth was more important than following tradition blindly. He invited both women to share in his work on the ranch, teaching them how to mend fences, care for animals, and ride through the wide fields. It became a way for them to understand each other and for all three of them to share moments of cooperation and trust. Days turned into weeks, and the relationship between the cowboy and the two women deepened. They learned the rhythms of each other's lives, the small habits that made them laugh, and the ways they could comfort each other during quiet moments of uncertainty. They discovered a bond that was complicated, yet filled with genuine care and understanding. The townspeople continued to react with mixed emotions. Some people could not accept the situation, viewing it as a scandal, while others were intrigued by the courage it took to live openly in the face of criticism. The cowboy did not seek approval and focused instead on maintaining respect and kindness toward everyone he encountered. Even when confronted, he responded calmly, trying to explain that love did not always follow the narrow paths that society expected. One evening, the cowboy and the two women decided to visit the edge of the plains, where the land stretched endlessly beneath the setting sun. They walked slowly among the tall grass, the wind whispering through the blades. It was a place where the outside world could not reach them, where they could speak freely and consider the life they wanted to build together. They talked about dreams for the future, about raising a family, about building a home that could hold them all safely. They discussed the challenges they might face and the resilience that would be required to endure the judgment of those who did not understand. Their words were filled with hope and caution as they tried to imagine a life that honored each of their hearts. Despite the challenges, the cowboy found comfort in knowing that the women cared for each other as well. They had grown to understand that life could be harsh, but that kindness and loyalty could create a bond stronger than fear or judgment. He realized that love was not a simple thing that could be measured, or controlled, but something that grew and adapted with time, patience, and care. The town's response grew more intense as preparations for a shared life began. The local market where he often bought supplies became a place of whispers and stares. The neighbors who had once greeted him warmly now questioned his choices. The gossip spread to the families of the women and even reached the ears of those who rarely ventured beyond their own homes yet. Through the disapproval, the cowboy maintained his commitment to transparency. He included both women in decisions large and small. They discussed how to manage the ranch together, how to spend time as a unit, and how to navigate the difficulties that came from living under the gaze of the town. The planning and shared responsibilities deepened their trust and reliance on each other. During this time, the cowboy discovered small joys in the daily routines. The laughter of the women as they worked together, the quiet moments when they sat beneath the trees, watching the cattle graze, and the shared meals around a simple table all brought warmth to his heart. He realized that love did not always have to be dramatic or public to be meaningful. It could be woven into the fabric of everyday life. The women also discovered strength within themselves and each other. They supported one another when moments of doubt or fear arose and celebrated the small victories of learning new skills and contributing to the ranch. Their bond was not without tension, but it was resilient because it was based on honesty and mutual respect rather than simple convenience or desire. The cowboy understood that the road ahead would not be easy, but he felt a growing certainty that choosing honesty and openness would give them the best chance to find happiness. Together, he knew that life in a small town would always include judgment, but he hoped that over time the town might come to understand the sincerity of their intentions. One morning they rode together across the fields toward the horizon, feeling the wind on their faces and the warmth of the sun on their backs. It was a moment of peace and reflection, a time to consider the life they were beginning to shape. The cowboy felt gratitude for the trust and love that each woman had placed in him, and he knew that their journey would require courage, patience, and unwavering honesty. Days were filled with labor and laughter, discussions, and quiet reflection. They navigated challenges with patience and learned to listen deeply to each other, understanding that compromise and care were essential to maintaining harmony. They found ways to celebrate small joys in the routines of life and to offer comfort during moments of uncertainty. The cowboy began to see that the path they were on was not about following rules or expectations, but about creating a life that reflected the values of truth, compassion, and resilience. He understood that love could be multifaceted and that a heart willing to embrace complexity could find depth and richness beyond ordinary experience. As evening fell, they gathered around the small fire at the edge of the barn, the sky painted in soft shades of color. Their conversation drifted from practical concerns to dreams and aspirations they had for the future. The cowboy listened carefully to each woman, offering support and encouragement and feeling gratitude for the trust they placed in him. The town continued to watch and whisper, yet the three of them moved forward together, learning to navigate both the beauty and the difficulty of their unusual situation. They discovered that the strength of their bond came not from public approval, but from the authenticity and care they brought to each interaction. In this way, the cowboy began to accept that life could be complicated and unpredictable, and that love required patience, understanding, and courage. He realized that the true measure of a relationship was not in how the world viewed it, but in how deeply and honestly the people involved committed to each other and to the life they were building. The town's reaction to the cowboy's situation became harder to ignore. People stared when he walked with one woman and whispered when he was seen with both. The gossip reached the marketplace, the saloon, and even the small school where children would repeat the rumors they had heard. Their judgment was harsh and unyielding, and it began to cast a shadow over the peaceful life the cowboy and the women had tried to build. The cowboy felt the weight of the town's disapproval keenly. He had always valued his neighbors' opinions. But now he realized that some things mattered more than acceptance. He chose to focus on honesty and kindness, treating everyone he encountered with respect. Even when they responded with suspicion or anger, he spoke calmly to those who confronted him, explaining that his choices were guided by truth and care for those he had. Loved despite the criticism, the women remained supportive and steadfast. They worked alongside the cowboy on the ranch, learning to care for the animals, mend fences, and ride across the plains. Their shared labor strengthened their bond and created moments of laughter and relief from the tension outside the ranch gates. They discovered that their connection was not just with the cowboy, but with each other, finding solidarity in facing the challenges of judgment and expectation. The town's backlash grew as preparations for a shared life continued. The local businesses refused to offer services they had once provided, and neighbors who had been friendly now treated them with distance and suspicion. The women felt the sting of exclusion, and the cowboy felt guilt for placing them in such a difficult position. He tried to shield them from as much pain as possible while remaining honest about the reality they faced. One day, a group of townspeople confronted the cowboy in the field, asking how he could justify his choices. They questioned his morality, his sense of duty, and even his ability to maintain the ranch under such circumstances. He responded calmly, explaining that love was not simple and that honesty and care for the people in his life guided his decisions. The confrontation ended without resolution, but the cowboy remained steady in his conviction. Women offered him quiet support during these moments, holding his hand or walking silently by his side. They encouraged each other to stay strong and reminded one another of the trust and affection they shared. The small gestures became a lifeline, allowing them to navigate the scrutiny of the town with a sense of unity and purpose. As the days passed, they found solace in the open plains, riding together at dawn or sitting beneath the tall trees. Watching the cattle graze, the wind carried away the noise of judgment and left space for reflection and connection. They spoke of dreams for the future, how they might build a home together, care for animals, and live a life filled with trust and understanding. They considered the challenges ahead and how to meet them with courage and compassion. Cowboy realized that the women were not just companions, but partners in life. Each brought something unique to the bond and helped him see the world in ways he had not considered. He learned patience from one and resilience from the other, and felt his heart expand to accommodate the complexities of love and responsibility. They discovered small joys in daily routines, the laughter shared while preparing meals together, the quiet moments of sitting by the fire after a long day, and the conversations about hopes, fears, and dreams all created a sense of life lived fully and honestly. Despite the scrutiny from the town, they found moments of peace and fulfillment that reinforced their commitment to each other. Cowboy knew that there would be difficult days ahead, but he felt a growing certainty that truth and care would guide them through challenges. The women had shown strength, and Grace and he was inspired by their courage. They were learning to live openly without fear of judgment. Relying on the bond they had nurtured through patience, understanding, and empathy, the town's response did not soften quickly. Some neighbors continued to speak harshly, while others simply looked away. Their whispers followed the cowboy and the women, but slowly a few began to see the sincerity of their intentions. They noticed the cooperation, the kindness, and the respect that existed among the three, and began to wonder if perhaps there was more to the story than scandal and rumor. One afternoon, the cowboy led the women to a hill overlooking the town. He wanted them to see the place from which they had come and the people whose judgment they faced. They stood together watching the small town bustling with life. The streets filled with movement and sound. They felt a mix of challenge and determination, knowing that they were committed to each other regardless of what others thought. The women held on to each other, and the cowboy feeling the strength of their unity in the face of adversity. They discussed how to continue building their life together, balancing work and care, and navigating the scrutiny from outside. They understood that patience, compassion, and steady commitment were essential to sustaining the bond they shared. The cowboy also found moments of introspection. He thought about the choices that had led him here, the quiet joys of living on the plains, and the complex emotions that had grown in his heart. He realized that love was not a single path or a simple answer, but a journey that required courage, reflection, and unwavering honesty. Then, in the hardest moments, there were signs of growth and understanding. The women discovered their own resilience, finding ways to support each other, and the cowboy, in meaningful ways, they shared laughter when possible, comforted each other in times of doubt, and celebrated small achievements in their shared life on the ranch. Their bonds strengthened under pressure, becoming a source of stability and warmth. Cowboy understood that the true test of their connection was not in how others viewed them, but in the honesty, care, and trust that existed among the three. He found reassurance in the shared routines of work and conversation in the quiet moments. At dusk, and in the laughter and support that carried them through each day, the women also found a deep appreciation for the cowboy's steadfastness. His patience, kindness, and openness provided a foundation for their relationship. They felt trusted and valued, and this allowed them to grow and contribute fully to the shared life they were building together. They learned to navigate challenges with grace and to face the scrutiny of the town without losing sight of their connection, even as rumors continued. The cowboy maintained a focus on living honestly. He believed that actions mattered more than words, and that demonstrating care and integrity would speak louder than gossip. He continued to treat neighbors with respect and kindness even when they did not reciprocate, reinforcing the values that guided his life and the bond with the women. Days were filled with work and reflection, moments of joy and quiet contemplation. They rode across the plains, repaired fences, tended to the animals, and shared meals under the wide sky. Their connection grew stronger in the routines of daily life, and in the shared understanding that honesty, patience, and love were essential to sustaining their unique bond. The town slowly began to see glimpses of the harmony and cooperation that existed among the three, the laughter that could be heard across the fields, the care taken for the animals, and the respect shown to each other suggested that their relationship was rooted in something more enduring than scandal and gossip. Some neighbors began to reconsider their judgment, seeing the depth and authenticity of the bond. Cowboy realized that living openly required courage, not just in facing external criticism, but in being vulnerable with those he loved. He felt gratitude for the trust placed in him by the women and for the strength they showed in confronting the challenges together. They were learning that love required patience, resilience, and a willingness to navigate the complexities of life with integrity and cares. Evening fell. They sat together, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The sky was painted in soft hues, and the wind carried the quiet promise of another day. They spoke of hopes, dreams, and plans for the future, sharing thoughts and concerns freely. Each conversation strengthened their understanding of one another and reinforced the commitment they had chosen to uphold. The cowboy knew that the journey ahead would not be simple, but he felt a growing sense of determination to navigate it with honesty and courage. He understood that true love was tested in difficult times, and that patience, compassion, and openness were essential to sustaining the bond. They shared. The women also embraced this understanding, finding strength in each other and in the cowboy. Their shared experiences created a sense of unity that allowed them to face the town's judgment with grace. They discovered that their connection was not defined by convention, but by the honesty, care, and loyalty they brought to each interaction. Through the daily routines, the quiet reflections, and the moments of shared laughter, they built a life that was uniquely their own, a life that respected the complexities of love and honored the commitment they had made to each other. They learned that happiness could be found in patience, understanding, and the courage to live authentically despite the opinions of others. One afternoon, as the sun climbed high in the sky, fire broke out in a section of the ranch. The dry grass and strong wind caused the flames to spread quickly. The cowboy saw the smoke from a distance and knew he had to act fast. He called to the women to stay back and mounted his horse, riding toward the fire. The sound of crackling flames filled the air, and the smell of burning grass made the eyes water. He pushed through fear and exhaustion, focusing on saving the animals and property. The cowboy worked tirelessly, moving the livestock to safer areas and creating fire breaks to prevent the flames from spreading further. The women watched from a distance, worried, but understanding the danger of approaching too closely. They called out instructions and helped where they could, moving smaller animals and carrying water to dampen the edges of the fire. Their cooperation with the cowboy showed their shared determination to protect.
Wait, what?
They loved ours past, and the fire was finally brought under control. The ranch had suffered some damage, but the most valuable parts, the livestock and the barn, had been saved. The cowboy stood in the middle of the charred field, exhausted but relieved. The women approached him, offering support and comfort. Their relief and pride were visible in their eyes, and the bond between them grew stronger in the face of adversity. The townspeople soon heard about the fire and the cowboy's bravery in facing it. They began to see him in a new light, admiring his courage, even if they did not understand his choices in love. Some neighbors brought supplies to help repair the damaged areas, and the mood in the town shifted slightly. Their respect for his determination and care for the ranch animals could not be denied. The women spent long hours helping with the repairs, learning new skills and discovering their own resilience. They worked side by side with the cowboy, lifting beams, fixing fences, and clearing debris. Their shared labor created moments of laughter and conversation that helped ease the stress of the fire. The experience strengthened their sense of partnership and mutual support, though. Cowboy began to reflect on the events of the fire, realizing that courage came in many forms, not just in facing flames, but also in facing the judgments and challenges of life. He understood that his choices in love required similar bravery, and that honesty and care were the guiding principles he must continue to follow. The women shared their own reflections, sitting together on a hill overlooking the ranch. The smoke had cleared, and the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft colors. They spoke about the fear they had felt during the fire and the admiration they had for the cowboy's strength. They realized that facing danger together had deepened their connection and reinforced the trust they shared. Despite the fire and the town's reactions, the cowboy and the women continued their routines on the ranch, tending to the animals, riding across the plains, and sharing meals together. The small moments of normalcy provided comfort and stability, allowing them to continue building their life together with intention and care. The experience of the fire also brought a new perspective from the town. Some neighbors who had been critical began to see the dedication and integrity of the cowboy and the women. Their respect grew, even if they did not fully accept the unconventional nature of the relationship. They observed the cooperation, care, and resilience that existed among the three and recognized that their intentions were genuine. The cowboy realized that the future would continue to bring challenges and that each day required patience and reflection. He understood that living authentically required courage and that the strength of his bond with the women could sustain them through adversity. He felt gratitude for their trust and for the shared commitment to face difficulties together. Women discovered new confidence in their abilities and in the support they provided each other. They learned that cooperation, patience, and understanding were essential in navigating both the demands of the ranch and the scrutiny of the town. They also realized that love could grow stronger in moments of challenge, and that shared experiences created a foundation of resilience and trust. As the days passed, they focused on rebuilding the damaged areas of the ranch, mending fences, repairing structures, and caring for the animals. The work was hard but rewarding, and the shared effort created a sense of unity and accomplishment. Their conversations during breaks ranged from practical concerns to hopes for the future, reinforcing the connection and understanding between them. The cowboy began to see the importance of community. Even when judgment and criticism were present, he reached out to neighbors, offering assistance and engaging in conversations that emphasized respect, honesty, and kindness. His actions gradually influenced the perception of some townspeople, who began to recognize the strength and integrity of the group. The women also began to take on leadership roles on the ranch, organizing tasks, delegating responsibilities, and supporting each other in their work. They discovered that their contributions were valued and that their partnership with the cowboy created an environment of mutual respect and cooperation. The daily routines strengthened their sense of purpose and belonging. Evenings were spent around the small fire or under the open sky, reflecting on the day's work and sharing stories and dreams. They spoke openly about fears and hopes, supporting each other through moments of doubt and celebrating accomplishments. Together, the simplicity of these moments provided comfort and a sense of continuity amidst the challenges they faced. The cowboy recognized that the fire had tested not only his physical strength, but also the emotional resilience of all three of them. He realized that courage and love required the same dedication and care as courage in facing danger. The experience reinforced his belief in living honestly and nurturing the bond he shared with the women. The women also reflected on the lessons learned during the fire. They understood that trust, cooperation, and patience were essential components of a strong relationship. They felt gratitude for the cowboy's leadership and for the opportunity to face challenges together, strengthening their connection and resilience. The town began to slowly acknowledge the dedication and hard work of the cowboy and the women. Some neighbors offered assistance in repairs while others watched with curiosity and cautious respect. The perception of the group began to shift slightly as their actions demonstrated integrity, cooperation, and a commitment to the ranch and animals. The cowboy and the women continued to navigate the daily routines of ranch life, riding across the plains, tending to livestock, and repairing structures. Their shared experiences and responsibilities strengthened their bond and provided a sense of stability and purpose. They found joy in simple moments and celebrated achievements both large and small. The lessons from the fire extended beyond the ranch. The cowboy understood that bravery, patience, and honesty were essential in facing challenges both in life and love. He realized that the journey ahead would continue to test them, but that the strength of their bond and their shared commitment provided a foundation for resilience. And understanding, the women also embraced these lessons, discovering confidence in their abilities and a deeper appreciation for the cowboy and each other. They supported one another through difficult moments and celebrated the successes of their shared work. The experience reinforced the importance of cooperation, trust, and open communication in maintaining their bond together. They planned for the future, discussing ways to continue building their life on the ranch while facing the ongoing scrutiny of the town. They considered practical strategies for daily routines, care for the animals, and maintaining harmony within their unconventional relationship. They also shared dreams for the years to come, imagining a life filled with trust, respect, and love. The cowboy felt a renewed sense of determination and commitment. He understood that living authentically and nurturing love required courage, patience, and reflection. The women felt the same, drawing strength from each other and the shared experiences that had shaped their bond. They knew that challenges would continue, but that the unity, honesty, and care they shared would guide them forward. In the quiet moments as the sun set and the wind moved across the plains, they felt the deep connection and resilience that had grown from the trials they faced. Together they understood that love and life required dedication, openness, and courage, and that the strength of their bond could sustain them through the challenges and uncertainties that lay ahead. Cowboy and the two women had endured the challenges and trials that had shaped their bond. They had faced the town's judgment, the difficulties of ranch life, and the fear and uncertainty that came from confronting the fire. Each experience had tested them, but had also strengthened their connection and understanding of each other. They decided to take a step that would define the future of their lives together. They planned a private ceremony on the ranch, a quiet place away from the town, where they could honor the commitment they had made to each other. The preparations were simple and meaningful. They gathered wildflowers from the fields, built a small altar from timber. They had collected and invited a few neighbors who they trusted to witness the moment. The day of the ceremony arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The cowboy and the women stood together, surrounded by the wide open plains, feeling the warmth of the sun and the connection they had nurtured over time. Their hearts were full of gratitude for each other and for the journey that had brought them to this moment. They exchanged words of commitment, not following tradition, but guided by honesty, love, and respect. They spoke of the trust they shared, the patience they had learned, and the courage it has taken to live authentically in the face of judgment. Their words were simple, but carried the weight of shared experience and deep understanding. The ceremony was quiet and heartfelt. The cowboy felt the strength of the bond he shared with the women and the importance of maintaining honesty, care, and patience in their shared life. The women felt the same, appreciating the courage it had taken to reach this point and the dedication each had shown to building a life. Together, the small gathering of neighbors who attended witnessed the sincerity and authenticity of the connection. The courage of the cowboy and the women was evident in their actions and words. The experience left some questioning their own assumptions and opened a few hearts to the possibility love could take forms beyond the ordinary. After the ceremony, they returned to the daily routines of ranch life. The challenges had not disappeared, but their shared commitment provided strength and stability. They continued to tend to the animals, repair fences, ride across the plains, and support each other in all aspects of life. The shared responsibilities reinforced their partnership and created a sense of unity and purpose. The town continued to react with mixed emotions. Some people accepted the reality and respected their courage. Others continued to whisper and judge, but over time, the consistent demonstration of honesty, kindness, and care began to soften some of the criticism. The actions of the cowboy and the women showed that their intentions were genuine and that they were committed to a life of integrity and love. The women discovered their own growth and resilience. They learned to navigate difficult situations together, support one another in times of doubt, and celebrate achievements both large and small. Their contributions to the ranch and to the shared life reinforced the sense of equality and mutual respect that had become the foundation of their bond. The cowboy reflected on the journey they had undertaken and the lessons learned. He understood that love required patience, courage, and honesty, and that true connection was built on shared experiences and mutual care. He felt gratitude for the women and the trust they had placed in him, and recognized that their lives, together, would continue to require dedication. In reflection, they spent evenings under the wide sky, sharing stories and dreams, supporting each other through moments of uncertainty, and enjoying the simplicity of being together. Their laughter and conversation created a sense of normalcy and comfort that helped balance the challenges of living under the gaze of the town. As the seasons changed, they continued to work on the ranch, developing routines that allowed them to thrive together. They cared for the land and the animals, nurtured their bond, and gradually the town began to accept their presence and the life they had chosen. Some neighbors came to admire their courage, patience, and dedication, and even offered help when needed. The cowboy and the women learned that living authentically required courage, not only in facing external judgment, but also in confronting their own fears and uncertainties. They discovered that love was multifaceted, and that nurturing it required patience, reflection, and unwavering honesty. The shared experiences had created a foundation that could sustain them through future challenges. Began to make plans for the future, imagining a life filled with continued growth, love, and connection. They discussed practical matters like the care of the ranch, the well-being of the animals, and how to maintain harmony, also dreaming about new experiences and possibilities that could enrich their lives. Their conversations were filled with hope and determination to continue building a life that reflected their values. The cowboy felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the women he loved were fully invested in creating a shared life. He realized that the path they had chosen was unconventional but authentic and meaningful. He understood that the measure of a successful life was not in the approval of others, but in the integrity, care, and dedication shared among those who mattered most. The women also reflected on their growth and the strength of their bond. They had learned to navigate adversity together, support each other in difficult times, and celebrate their successes. With shared joy, they understood that their lives together were defined by honesty, patience, and the courage to live authentically rather than conform to expectations. Together, they continued to build their life on the ranch, sharing responsibilities, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. They rode across the plains together, cared for the animals together, and maintained the structures of their home together. Each day provided opportunities to reinforce trust, cooperation, and love, and to celebrate the life they had chosen. The town gradually grew to accept their presence and the choices they had made. Some neighbors were inspired by the courage, It took to live authentically, others continued to struggle with judgment, but the consistent demonstration of care and integrity could not be denied. The cowboy and the women had shown that love and life could be lived honestly and meaningfully, even when faced with criticism. In quiet moments, the cowboy and the women continued to reflect on the journey they had undertaken. And the lessons learned, they understood that patience, courage, and honesty would continue to be necessary as they navigated the complexities of life together. They also understood that the strength of their bond provided a foundation for resilience, happiness, and fulfillment. The seasons continued to change, and with each passing day, the bond between the cowboy and the women grew stronger. They celebrated milestones in life and work, faced challenges together, and continued to nurture the trust and care that had become the foundation of their relationship. Their lives were filled with moments of joy, reflection, and growth. In the evenings, they often gathered on a hill overlooking the ranch, watching the sunset and the wind move across the plains. They spoke of dreams, plans, and aspirations, supporting each other through uncertainties and celebrating achievements. Their shared presence created a sense of peace and stability that allowed them to continue building a life grounded in honesty, care, and love. The cowboy felt a deep gratitude for the journey he had undertaken and the trust placed in him by the women. He understood that the true measure of life was found in the relationships nurtured, the integrity maintained, and the courage demonstrated in both love and daily responsibilities. He knew that the bond they shared could sustain them through any challenge. Women reflected on their own strength and the importance of their shared commitment. They appreciated the honesty, patience, and care that guided their life together, and recognized that the experiences they had faced had strengthened their connection. They felt empowered to continue building a shared life grounded in trust, respect, and authenticity together. They faced the world as a united group committed to living honestly, nurturing love, and maintaining integrity. The challenges of the past had shaped them, but also strengthened their bond, allowing them to create a life that reflected their values and their dedication to each other. They knew that the journey ahead would continue to require patience, courage, and care, but felt confident in the strength of the connection they had built. The cowboy and the women continued their routines, caring for the land and animals, riding across the plains, and sharing quiet moments together. They reflected on their growth and celebrated their successes while supporting each other through uncertainties. Their lives had become a testament to the power of honesty, care, and commitment in creating a meaningful and fulfilling shared life. Town continued its rhythm, but the presence of the cowboy and the women became a part of it. Their choices inspired some, challenged others, and gradually became accepted. As an enduring example of love lived authentically, the couple learned that while not everyone would understand, the strength of their bond and the integrity of their actions were what truly mattered through each day, each challenge, and each moment of quiet reflection. The cowboy and the two women nurtured their connection and built a life that was both unconventional and deeply meaningful. They discovered that love, honesty, patience, and courage were essential to facing the complexities of life together, and that a shared commitment could provide strength and fulfillment beyond measure. The story of the cowboy and the two women became one of resilience and authenticity, a testament to the power of love lived honestly and the importance of building a life grounded in care, respect, and courage. They continued to face each day together, knowing that their bond would sustain them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The life on the ranch had settled into a rhythm, but it was far from quiet. The cowboy and the two women continued to care for the land, the animals, and each other. Their days were filled with work and shared moments of reflection. Each task was approached with cooperation and a sense of purpose, knowing that their bond was strengthened by shared effort and commitment. The cowboy rose early each morning, riding across the fields to check on the cattle. The women followed with energy and determination, helping to repair fences, feed animals, and clear the land. The work was hard and sometimes exhausting, but it brought a sense of satisfaction and unity. Each evening, as the sun dipped low, they gathered together, sharing stories of the day and reflecting on what they had accomplished. Town continued to observe them with curiosity. Some neighbors, who had once been harsh and judgmental, began to acknowledge their dedication and integrity. Others remained skeptical and whispered when they passed on the streets. Despite this, the cowboy and the women focused on their life together, finding strength in the trust and love that bound them, rather than the opinions of others. The seasons changed, bringing new challenges and opportunities. Each season required adjustments to the care of animals, the maintenance of structures, and the management of crops. The cowboy and the women worked together to meet each challenge using the skills they had developed over time there. Coordination and communication became seamless as they learned to anticipate each other's needs and strengths. They spent long afternoons riding across the open plains, enjoying the freedom and the beauty of the land. They discussed dreams for the future and shared reflections on the journey that had brought them to this point. They laughed at small mistakes, offered support during moments of frustration, and celebrated the successes, both large and small. Their connection deepened as they continued to understand and appreciate each other. The women took on greater responsibility in managing the ranch, organizing tasks and ensuring that each day was productive. They discovered new talents in problem-solving, planning, and leadership. Their contributions were valued, and their confidence grew as they saw the results of their work and the positive impact on their shared life. The cowboy found himself inspired by their dedication and resilience. He realized that true partnership meant supporting and uplifting each other in all aspects of life. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the women shared his vision for a life built on honesty, care, and mutual respect. If in moments of quiet, the three of them nurtured their bond. They would sit beneath the open sky watching the sun rise, or sit listening to the wind and the distant sounds of animals moving across the plains. These moments provided reflection and peace, reinforcing the understanding that their connection was grounded in shared experience and trust. The town's attitude continued to shift slowly. Some neighbors who had been critical began to show support in subtle ways, offering help with supplies, advice, and encouragement. Others remained distant or disapproving, but the presence of the cowboy and the women became a familiar part of the community. Their consistent demonstration of care, responsibility, and integrity gradually influenced perceptions and softened hearts. Women also developed a strong sense of self, knowing that their contributions and presence were essential to the success and harmony of their shared life. They supported each other through challenges, encouraged each other in moments of doubt, and celebrated achievements together. Their bond became a source of strength and comfort, allowing them to face difficulties with resilience and confidence. The cowboy reflected on the journey they had undertaken, recognizing that the experiences and challenges had shaped them into a stronger and more cohesive unit. He understood that living authentically required courage, patience, and honesty, and that the foundation they had built together provided stability for the life they were creating. They also spent time engaging with neighbors and the broader community, demonstrating kindness, respect, and cooperation in their interactions. They offered assistance when needed, engaged in conversations with openness and patience, and maintained integrity in all their actions. Gradually, some of the town's residents began to acknowledge the value of the example they were setting in living honestly and harmoniously. The daily routines included tending to livestock, maintaining fences, planting and harvesting crops, and repairing structures. Each task required collaboration and trust. The cowboy and the women found joy in seeing the results of their labor, knowing that their collective efforts sustained their life on the ranch and reinforced the principles of cooperation and dedication. Evening gatherings became times of connection and reflection. They shared meals, stories, and dreams, discussing the day's events and planning for the future. Each conversation was approached with honesty, patience, and respect, reinforcing the bonds between them and nurturing the sense of unity that defined their life together. The seasons brought natural challenges such as storms, extreme heat, and cold weather. Each situation required careful preparation and adaptation. The cowboy and the women relied on their experience and knowledge of the land and animals to navigate these challenges. They supported each other emotionally and practically, ensuring that the ranch and their lives remained secure and stable.